10 ancient legends that sounded made up, but turned out to be true. Number 10, the voices of the gods. If you ever have the chance to walk alone into an ancient temple, you'll probably notice something unsettling. Out of nowhere, an invisible weight seems to press down on your shoulders. Your chest begins to vibrate uncontrollably. Your vision starts to blur. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up as if countless unseen eyes are staring at you from the darkness. And then comes the most terrifying part. You begin to hear ghostly whispers echoing directly into your ears. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. But science completely dismisses anything supernatural. Ancient architects unknowingly designed many of these temples in a way that turned them into giant machines capable of producing infrasound, sound waves below 20 Hz. Human ears can't hear these frequencies at all. But the human body certainly can. The mystery was finally unraveled in 1998 when an engineer named Victor Tandy discovered that a faulty fan in his laboratory was generating infrasound at exactly 19 Hz. Here's the disturbing part. 19 Hz also happens to be the resonant frequency of the human eyeball. When your eyeballs begin vibrating, the signals sent to your brain become distorted, causing you to see dark, shadowy apparitions that aren't really there. The enormous halls, towering stone columns, and wind rushing through narrow openings unintentionally combine to generate these invisible waves. The ancient people who fled these temples in terror weren't going insane. Their eyeballs were simply being subjected to one of the world's most perfect architectural accidents. Ironically, their devotion to the gods accidentally created a massive physics laboratory. And they became its most unfortunate test subjects. Number 9, the tombs of the Amazon warriors. For centuries, stories about independent tribes of female warriors who rode horses like the wind and never missed a shot with their bows were treated as nothing more than fantasy. Most scholars believed the Amazons were fictional characters invented by imaginative ancient Greek soldiers. Then everything changed. Archaeologists excavating mysterious burial mounds beneath the grasslands of southern Russia uncovered skeletons buried with great honor alongside blood-stained weapons, shields, swords, and fatal battlefield injuries. Because of long-standing assumptions about gender, scientists initially identified the graves as belonging to male warriors. Modern DNA testing completely overturned that conclusion. Every single one of them was female. One warrior had even been buried with her legs positioned as though she were still riding a horse, gripping weapons in both hands. Numerous arrowheads were found with fractured tips, proving they had pierced enemy targets in real combat. Their arm bones were exceptionally well developed, a physical trait seen in people who have practiced archery since childhood. Even more astonishing, several skulls bore deep sword wounds that had fully healed, proving these women survived multiple brutal hand-to-hand battles. Imagine being an ancient Greek soldier confidently marching into battle, only to be surrounded by an elite cavalry of highly trained female archers charging straight toward you. No wonder they were so terrified that they transformed those encounters into legendary myths. This remarkable discovery shattered centuries of outdated assumptions, proving that women in the ancient world could be every bit as fearless and formidable as any man. Number 8, the terrifying rock bird. Throughout ancient Arabian folklore, the skies were said to belong to a colossal bird. Its wings were so enormous they could block out the sun. Its talons were supposedly strong enough to snatch elephants from the ground as easily as picking up a French fry. Naturally, everyone assumed the roc was nothing more than a fairy tale. But this legend may have been inspired by a very real creature. The elephant bird, which once lived on the island of Madagascar. This giant bird stood over 3 meters tall and weighed as much as 40 large men combined. Of course, with a body that massive, it couldn't fly at all, let alone carry elephants through the sky. But imagine you're an ancient sailor who washes ashore on Madagascar and stumbles upon one of its eggs. Everything suddenly makes a lot more sense. A single elephant bird egg could hold the equivalent of about 160 chicken eggs. It was roughly the size of a large laptop. You rush back to your ship carrying this unbelievable discovery. You tell the story to your stunned crewmates. Then they tell another crew. Those sailors tell the next port. And before long, a giant flightless bird that simply ate plants had evolved into a monstrous creature with wings spanning dozens of meters. Sadly, the elephant bird disappeared around 1,000 years ago. It wasn't wiped out after battling elephants. It was driven to extinction because our ancestors loved collecting and eating its gigantic eggs. Combined with relentless hunting, the loss of its ability to reproduce pushed one of Earth's greatest birds into permanent extinction. Today, only its legend remains. Number 7. Monster waves. To experienced sailors in the 1800s, the ocean always concealed an unnamed terror. One moment the sea would be perfectly calm. The ship would glide peacefully beneath clear skies. Then, without warning, a towering wall of black water would suddenly rise directly in front of the bow. For centuries, old sailors whispered stories about these deadly waves, calling them giant holes in the ocean. Scientists dismissed the tales as drunken exaggerations fueled by too much rum. But the sailors were telling the truth. On January 1, 1995, at the Droppner oil platform in the North Sea, scientific instruments recorded a single wave nearly 25 meters high, the height of an 8-story building. Unlike ordinary waves that gradually build over time, this monster appeared almost instantly. Even more disturbing. Just before it struck, the sea surface suddenly collapsed into a massive depression. Then all of that displaced water violently surged upward into a towering wall of destruction. The phenomenon occurs through constructive interference, much like several waves in a bathtub colliding and launching water high into the air. Today, oceanographers estimate that at any given moment, roughly 10 rogue waves are silently roaming somewhere across the world's oceans. The sea has always known how to hide its deadliest secrets. And sometimes, the stories told by drunken sailors contain truths that science won't catch up with for another 100 years. Number 6. The bones of the Griffin. Around 2,500 years ago, nomadic gold miners digging through the harsh sands of the Gobi Desert stumbled upon something astonishing. A gigantic skull. It had the sharp, hooked beak of an eagle. But behind it was the skeleton of a powerful four-legged beast. What they had actually discovered was an exceptionally preserved fossil of a horned dinosaur known today as Protoceratops. The problem? Back then, dinosaurs didn't exist as a concept. The nomads believed they had unearthed the remains of a terrifying mythical creature. As merchants carried the story along the Silk Road, the legend of the Griffin, a beast with the head of an eagle and the body of a lion, was born. In reality, Protoceratops was a harmless plant-eater roughly the size of a large sheep. Its horned beak was designed for clipping vegetation, not tearing apart prey. Over thousands of years, wind erosion exposed the broad neck frill, making it resemble folded wings. Here's where things became even stranger. The Gobi Desert wasn't just famous for its rich gold deposits. It also happened to be littered with dinosaur fossils and fossilized nests. Anyone searching for gold would frequently discover these bizarre half-bird, half-beast skeletons lying right beside valuable veins of gold. To ancient people, there was only one logical explanation. The Griffin must have been a fearsome guardian created to protect hidden treasures. Human imagination has always found ways to fill the gaps in knowledge. Sometimes, all it takes is a few ancient bones and a handful of gold. Number 5. The gateway to the Underworld. During the height of the Roman Empire, thrill-seeking travelers flocked to the ancient city of Hierapolis for one of the world's strangest attractions. Led by mysterious priests dressed in flowing robes, visitors were guided toward a cave shrouded in thick, ghostly mist. There, the priests performed what appeared to be undeniable proof of divine power. They would throw a perfectly healthy bird into the mist. Within seconds, the bird's heart stopped. It collapsed to the ground. Dead. Without a single visible wound. Welcome to Pluto's Gate, the most terrifying tourist attraction of the ancient world. For centuries, historians dismissed the entire story as nothing more than a frightening legend. Then, in 2013, archaeologists finally uncovered the exact location of the cave, surrounded by the remains of countless dead birds. Science quickly exposed the so-called miracle. The cave sits directly above an active geological fault that constantly releases dense clouds of carbon dioxide from deep beneath the Earth's surface. Over time, the gas formed an invisible lake of death hugging the ground. Any small animal unfortunate enough to enter was essentially walking into a gas chamber. But one mystery remained. Why did the priests survive while the animals died? The answer was surprisingly simple. They understood a basic principle of chemistry. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air. It settles near the ground. As long as the priests kept their heads above the deadly layer and stood upright, they could safely breathe the fresh air above. This clever deception earned the priesthood immense wealth and influence. Until science finally exposed the truth hidden behind the illusion. Number 4, the singing statues of Memnon. Picture yourself standing in ancient Egypt just before sunrise. Before you tower two colossal stone statues, each nearly 18 meters tall, casting enormous shadows across the desert sand. As the first rays of sunlight touch the cold stone, the statues begin to sing. Not with beautiful melodies. Instead, eerie whistles, deep humming vibrations, trumpet-like blasts, and mournful groans echo across the desert. The phenomenon became so famous that travelers from Greece and Rome crossed thousands of kilometers just to hear this mysterious concert once in their lives. The explanation, however, had nothing to do with magic. The statues were carved from quartz-rich sandstone filled with countless microscopic cracks. During the freezing desert nights, moisture condensed inside those tiny fractures. When the morning sun rapidly heated the stone, the trapped water instantly turned into steam. The expanding pressure forced hot air through the narrow cracks, creating vibrations that produced haunting sounds. It's the same principle as blowing across the mouth of an empty glass bottle. Sadly, this extraordinary natural concert ended forever around 199 AD. A Roman emperor, hoping to honor the statues, ordered workers to repair every crack with fresh stone. Without realizing it, they sealed the very openings that made the statues sing. One well-intentioned restoration permanently silenced a miracle that had echoed across the desert for centuries. Sometimes, good intentions combined with a lack of understanding can destroy wonders that can never be replaced. Number 3, real-life one-eyed giants. Imagine walking into a dark limestone cave carrying nothing but a torch. Suddenly, you trip over an enormous skull. The most horrifying part is the massive hollow opening in the center of its forehead. It looks exactly like the giant eye socket of a terrifying one-eyed monster staring back at you from the dead. That wasn't fiction. It's likely what happened to ancient Greeks thousands of years ago. Living in a time without museums or biology textbooks, they naturally concluded they had discovered the remains of gigantic man-eating cyclopes. The truth was far less monstrous. The skulls actually belonged to an extinct species of dwarf elephant. For people who had never seen a living elephant, the discovery was shocking enough on its own. That giant eye socket wasn't an eye at all. It was simply the opening where the elephant's trunk had once connected to the skull. Because these elephants evolved in isolation on food-scarce islands, they became much smaller than their mainland relatives. Their skulls were only slightly larger than a human head, making the illusion even more convincing. These fossils were commonly found in coastal caves throughout the Mediterranean, the very places Homer described as the home of the Cyclops in the Odyssey. Modern science now believes the legendary one-eyed giants were born not from terrifying monsters, but from an innocent misunderstanding of elephant anatomy. Those gentle little elephants could never have imagined that their bones would one day become history's most famous monsters. Number 2, the sunken city of Helike. Imagine living a life of luxury in one of the richest cities of the ancient world. Then, in the middle of the night, you wake up struggling to breathe as freezing seawater engulfs your home beneath the ocean. That wasn't a disaster movie. It was the tragic fate of Helike. During a single winter night in 373 BC, the magnificent city disappeared forever. Days before the catastrophe, witnesses reported something deeply unsettling. Rats, snakes, insects. Entire swarms of animals fled the city as though they sensed death approaching. People ignored nature's warning. Then disaster struck. A violent earthquake tore through the Earth's crust, triggering a massive tsunami that swallowed the city whole. Thousands of lives vanished beneath the raging sea. For more than 2,000 years, no one could find Helike. Many believed it had become another Atlantis. Finally, in 2001, ground-penetrating radar revealed the astonishing truth. The city had not vanished into the sea at all. It had sunk vertically into ancient coastal marshland nearly half a mile inland from today's shoreline. The thick mud preserved everything like a giant time capsule. Archaeologists uncovered pottery still containing unfinished meals, along with jewelry scattered exactly where people had dropped it while fleeing. Perhaps the cruelest irony of all. The city's patron god was Poseidon, the very god of earthquakes in the sea. The people worshipped him every day. Yet, according to legend, he was the one who destroyed them overnight. Whether myth or coincidence, Helike remains a haunting reminder that nature's power is beyond anything humanity can control. Number 1. The 7,000-year echo of Mount Mazama. In the early 1800s, Western explorers arrived in the wilderness of what is now the United States. There, the Klamath people shared a sacred story passed down by countless generations. Around their campfires, they spoke of a colossal mountain that collapsed after a fierce battle between two mighty chiefs from different worlds. The sky shattered. The mountain erupted violently, hurling glowing red rocks into the heavens like a fiery storm. Finally, the mountain caved in upon itself, leaving behind a vast crater now known as Crater Lake. At first, scientists dismissed the tale as nothing more than primitive folklore. Then modern science caught up. Radiocarbon dating eventually confirmed that about 7,700 years ago, Mount Mazama experienced a catastrophic eruption remarkably consistent with the Klamath oral tradition. The discovery stunned historians. The Klamath people had preserved the memory of a real natural disaster for over 7,000 years. Long before writing even existed. Their story is older than the Egyptian pyramids themselves. Think about that. Today, a simple neighborhood rumor can become completely distorted after passing through only a few people. Yet this community faithfully preserved the details of a disaster across more than 300 generations. The most reasonable explanation is also the simplest. When your entire world is nearly destroyed by fire, you make sure your descendants never forget what happened. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Sometimes the ancient myths we casually dismiss aren't fantasies at all. They're history itself, wrapped in the language of legend. Thanks to the determination and cultural memory of the Klamath people, an invaluable piece of humanity's past survived until science was finally able to confirm it. That concludes today's incredible journey through ancient mysteries. If you think history and the ancient world still hide countless secrets waiting to be uncovered, I'll keep digging deeper and bringing you even more fascinating, mind-blowing, and entertaining mystery videos in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next adventure. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next journey.